$20 billion or something like that to get involved in this as well. So if they're going to give them 20 billion in order to get involved, this is a very, very dangerous time. These are trying times, and we have to be very careful because America, again, like we've always seen them do, one intervention after another, getting involved in the politics of these countries, for political gains. So weapons and defense capabilities. Venezuela reportedly possessed Russian supplied KH-31 anti-ship missiles, air launch capable of threatening naval vessels. Venezuela have advanced air defense system, the S-300, SA-24, etc. that could complicate aerial incursions. Yeah, it's not going to be an easy walk, but America is willing to do it. Trump is willing to do it. All of this is about money. It's about money, it's about influence, it's about power, it's about control. And this is what Trump and his people are looking out to do. This is what they are, they've been saying. They're angling for war. They're basically dying to go to war with the rest of the world. All of this because of minerals, because of rare earths. And we're even hearing the position of the US President Donald Trump changing in respect to Ukraine. These are the same people that will say something at night and say a different thing during the day. So Trump have been talking about how he has, authorized the CIA, operation in Venezuela and giving justification. But today, let's look at the historical context of the current situation and the relationship between America and Venezuela and the Americas. In fact, America's involvement in the Caribbean and in the Americas. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Said. So when you transition from the current developments and what is happening, you want to look at the historical, depth in order to understand what is really going on. Now, the U.S. intervention in the Americas goes back a very long time. Military coups, the support for proxy forces, backing up dictatorship in Guatemala in 1954, Chile with Augusto Pinochet in 1973, Nicaragua with the support of America for the Contras. So the new CIA operation revives old patterns in respect to what they call the Monroe Doctrine. Now, all of this is also about resources. Like I said, oil reserve and resources is at stake because Venezuela is an oil-rich country. U.S. companies and American strategic interests have long been tied to Venezuelan energy. So all of this is about their strategic and political and economic interest in Venezuela. It has nothing to do with the whole facade of the narco wars and America trying to stop the inflow of narcotics into Florida and other parts of the United States. So this is not the plan. I mean, if America wants to stop the inflow of narcos into the U.S., they can ask Mexico. They can do that, take it up with Mexico. But these are American energy firms and companies eyeing to take up positions and take up energy infrastructure and have drilling rights in the waters of Venezuela. And they are trying to bully their way into power. This is what it's about. It is, not about the situation that they tell you, oh, well, we are protecting our interests, we are trying to do X, Y, Z. It has nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with that. And this is where we found ourselves today with the United States of America. So, like I said, this is a very interesting conversation that we can have. This is an interesting conversation. So, for those of you just joining, don't forget to like and share. I will also be talking about this in relations to the U.S. involvement in Venezuela. Now, the Bolivarian Revolution and the whole idea that started by Hugo Chavez. By the way, if you want to go back and look at the independence and the decolonization that happened in America, you can talk about people like Simon de Bolivar and the role that they played in the decolonization of countries like Venezuela and Colombia and Bolivia and most of these countries in the Americas. Because remember, the Spanish were there, the French were in the Antilles area, the Dutch were there. So, but it was Simon de Bolivar, through his efforts that led largely to the decolonization of most of the countries in South America. So, so during the leadership of Chavez between 1999 and 2013, there was a shift, towards nationalism, socialism, in what Hugo Chavez called the Bolivarian Revolution, referring and linking it to Simon de Bolivar. This is America, our business. Well, it's also my business about what is going on around the world. I have a special interest in what is happening around the world. It's not just your business, to talk about that. So Maduro says So we can also talk about what happened with Hugo Chavez. So between 1999 and even there was a time period that there was a brief military coup in Venezuela that removed him from power, and the army stepped in again and reinstated him back to power. So so there was a shift towards socialism, nationalism, anti-US rhetoric, alliances with Russia and China. All of this happened during the rule of the President Hugo Chavez. And after Chavez died, the Vice President, Nicolas Maduro, took over power from Chavez, and the tensions continue. Now, the tensions rose sharply as sanctions increased and claims of foreign meddling and, amid the whole idea of democracy, because this is the game they have been playing. Oh, we want you to democratize enough. You don't have real democracy in Venezuela. We want you to have real democracy in Venezuela. And all this bullshit that they're banding around, it has absolutely nothing to do with that. This is the United States of America trying to take charge of Venezuelan oil, and they are making a case that this is about democracy and human rights. This is not the first time. At least this president in America is blatant enough to make it clear that he doesn't care, that to him it's about power, it's about control, it's about influence, and this is exactly what the US President Donald Trump is more or less interested in. Now let's look at the legal and geopolitical and risk analysis. Now all of this started, like I said, with the second emergence of President Trump, winning an election earlier this year. And he has been insisting that Venezuela must be broken. He has been insisting that he wants to fight the narcos and whatever's coming from Venezuela and Colombia. This is what he said, but he parked most of the vessels on Venezuelan waters close to the shores of Venezuela, stopping them from selling their oil in order to squeeze them out economically to punish the Venezuelan people. And this is not okay. And by the way, remember that Venezuela can also sell oil through Brazil. And this is why America is also, having all this sort of interest. And Brazil is also prepared because they know what is coming. So the UN Charter prohibits the use of force against another state's territorial integrity except in self-defense or with Security Council authorization. America is not seeking Security Council authorization. America is not interested in what the UN Security Council is saying. The US is interested in power. It's about control, it's about influence, it's about what America wants. So this has always been the game. The United States of America going to Venezuela has nothing to do with fighting against narcos. It has everything to do with Venezuelan oil and an attempt to remove Maduro from power, to take away socialism and any form of state control of their natural resources, of their oil wells, of their refineries, and hand it over back to private capital with investors from America, or you can call them capitalists and bullies from the United States of America. These guys want to take control of Venezuelan oil, eroding the sovereignty of Venezuela, taking away the sovereignty of Venezuela like they have done to countries around the world, like they are doing to Nigeria today with Chevron, ExxonMobil, Shell, British Petroleum, like they did in Iran, and eventually kicked out the Shah in 1979 because he refused to renew the agreement. This is about capitalism. It's about bullying countries into acquiescence. It's about control. And this is exactly what they are trying to do in Venezuela. So what are the regional and diplomatic backlash? Now, Latin American countries and blocs like ALBA, CARICOM may also see the US action as neocolonialism and imperialism. Of course they see it, but what can they possibly do? What is country like El Salvador and all these countries going to do to the United States of America? Absolutely nothing. It's about taking power and taking control in terms of what they relate to the Monroe Doctrine. Now, Venezuela's appeal to the UN and its legal claim, we've been hearing, anytime something like this happens, they run to the UN. What exactly is the UN going to do? What role is the UN going to play in terms of really stopping this? Okay? When you have all these giant multinationals running around, putting their weight around and trying to stop countries like Venezuela and countries like Bolivia, El Salvador. These are very small countries in terms of demography. By the way, Venezuela is a big country in terms of population, by the way. It's one of the biggest countries in South America by population. But the economy is in trouble. This is why a lot of people are migrating out of the country. The economy is in trouble as we speak. So we have 12 people listening and 1,300 likes. Please like the live stream and share the live stream if you can. So this has nothing to do with the with democracy and human rights and all that nonsense they are talking about. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. Again, like I said, it's about the United States of America, doing what they do best, about taking resources from people. It's about power. It's about control. And enough is enough. The rest of the world needs to stand up and say enough is enough. It's about taking control of the resources of Venezuela. This has nothing to do with democracy. It has nothing to do with the tyranny of Nicolas Maduro. It has nothing to do with the Bolivarian Revolution. It has everything to do with American power. It has everything to do with naked, chronic capitalism. And this is what the United States of America intends to do. And we can look at the plethora, a long list of American interventions in the Americas. Chile with Augusto Pinochet and the removal of Salvador Allende, the support for dictator Rios Montt, the support for the Contras in Nicaragua against the Sandinistas, intervention in Bolivia, Argentina, Cuba, Haiti, the support for Fulgencio Batista in Cuba, the invasion of the Bay of Pigs. The list is endless. Where can I start from? The list is endless. And this is exactly what they are trying to do to the rest of the world. And if we keep our eyes closed and we stay silent, this will happen to each and every country, not just in South America, but will continue to happen in other countries around the world. It will continue to happen to other countries around the world. Not one plane going over Venezuela since 3 hours. Yes, so the situation is getting really tense at this point. So you're saying that Venezuela is not a real country, it's America's. Well, the Venezuelan people will have a different opinion on you saying that their country is not a real country. Maybe we can say that about the United States of America. Maybe we should say that about America and American control and American power and whatever the United States is doing around the world. Maybe we can have the same conversation about America, since your intention and whatever you're saying is that it's not a real country. I don't agree with you 1 second, but I mean, that's your opinion. You want to think that Venezuela is not a real country. These are people that have a long history and have a national pride. These people were there from the beginning. Just like you and your people came to invade that country, the United States is a country of migrants. You guys are all over the place and you're telling us that Venezuela is not a real country. What are you talking about? What exactly are you on about? The Venezuelan people also deserve dignity. They deserve to have rights. And you want to take away the rights from them. Why do you want to take away the rights from the Venezuelan people? Why do you think they don't have a right to own and control their own countries and their own companies and infrastructure?